Your neighbors are going to walk past your yard this August and stop. Not because you worked harder than them, not because you spent more money than them, but because you made one smart decision this May that they didn't. 8 perennials, 1 month, a yard so full, so alive, and so covered in color that people slow down just to look at it. These plants spread on their own. They come back every single year. They multiply for free while you're sitting on your porch. And if you miss May, you lose the entire season. So let's not waste another second. Here's exactly what to plant right now. Plant 1. Purple coneflower. Most people plant coneflower and forget about it within 2 seasons because they planted it wrong, in the wrong spot, and it disappointed them. That ends today. Echinacea purpurea is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9. That covers nearly every continental climate, from northern Minnesota down to southern Florida. Pinkish-purple petals sweeping downward from a raised copper-orange central cone create a silhouette that nothing else can be mistaken for. It blooms from July through September, 3 full months of continuous flowering, exactly when most spring perennials have finished their work and your garden needs something to step into the lead role. Here is what most gardening videos never tell you about coneflower. It is one of the most valuable pollinator plants available to American gardeners right now. Bumblebees work the flowers all day long. Monarch butterflies, painted ladies, and swallowtails visit constantly. And once the bloom finishes, do not cut down those seed heads. Goldfinches arrive in flocks and feed on them all fall and winter long. One plant put in the ground this May feeds dozens of wildlife species by September, at 0 ongoing cost to you. Coneflower spreads 2 ways simultaneously. The clump itself expands outward each season through the root system, and the seed heads you left standing drop seeds that germinate the following spring. By year 3, you have a colony of 6 to 8 plants where you originally placed 1. At current nursery prices of $12 per pot, that is $84 worth of free plants from one decision made this May. Plant in full sun in well-draining soil. Coneflower hates wet feet in winter more than anything else. If your soil is heavy clay, work in coarse sand and compost or build a raised bed. Do this once and do it right, and the plant will serve you for decades. Tell me in the comments right now, do you have a full sunspot that scorches by August, or a place where you have lost plants to summer heat? Because I promise you, almost every answer to that problem is showing up on this list today. Drop it below. I read every one. Plant 2, woodland sage. This plant blooms when your tulips finish and holds on until your summer perennials take over. It fills that critical late May to early June gap that turns so many gardens into a visual dead zone. Salvia nemorosa is hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8. Vertical spikes of deep violet blue, rich purple, vibrant pink, or pure white rise 18 to 24 inches above compact silver-green foliage. Caradonna for dramatic dark stems contrasting with violet flowers, Maynite for classic purple with extended bloom, and pink profusion for soft pink with exceptional vigor. All 3 are proven across American performance trials. Here is what makes Salvia exceptional. Cut it back hard after the first bloom, all the way to the basal foliage. Within 3 weeks, it returns with a full second wave of flowering that continues all summer through September. 2 complete bloom seasons from one plant in 1 year at no additional cost. This is not catalog marketing language. This is documented garden performance. Salvia releases aromatic oils from the foliage that deer and rabbits physically avoid approaching. The scent repels them at the approach stage, before they get close enough to taste it. Unlike spray repellents that wash off in the first rain, this plant is the repellent, always working, every day, all season, year after year without a single reapplication. The pollinators that work salvia are remarkable in both number and variety. Bumblebees, carpenter bees, honeybees, and hummingbirds visit constantly. If your vegetable garden is not producing the yields it should, the answer might simply be that you do not have enough reliable pollinator plants nearby. Salvia solves that problem while simultaneously solving your deer problem and filling your border with color for 2 seasons. 3 problems solved by one plant. 2 plants in, and I want to ask you something. How much money have you spent at the garden center in the last 3 springs replacing things that died? If this channel saves you even one unnecessary trip, subscribing is the smartest free decision you make today. Hit that button right now. Plant 3, Threadleaf Coreopsis. This plant blooms for 9 straight weeks without stopping. 9 weeks. Most perennials give you 2 weeks of bloom and disappear. Coreopsis gives you a full summer in one plant and asks less from you for it than almost anything else in your garden. Coreopsis verticillata is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9, full country, every state. The airy, needle-like foliage creates a textural backdrop that looks attractive even before the bloom begins. Moonbeam for soft lemon yellow, Zagreb for electric gold, Redshift for deep wine red with golden edges. It blooms from June through September, 9 weeks of bright, star-shaped flowers covering the entire plant so densely you can barely see the foliage underneath. Coreopsis is a North American native, which means once established, it needs significantly less water, less fertilizer, and less attention than nearly any non-native plant you can buy at that same garden center. It was built for American soil. It belongs in American gardens. It has been growing on this continent since long before anyone was selling it in a pot. It spreads through underground rhizomes, slowly and predictably, never becoming aggressive or invasive. Every 3 years, dig up an established clump and divide it into 5 to 6 separate plants. At $10 per pot, that is $50 to $60 worth of free plants from one morning of work. That is not gardening, that is investing. And here is the key detail most videos skip. Cut Coreopsis back by 1/3 in mid-July when the first wave of bloom starts winding down. Within 10 days, it returns with a full second wave that continues until first frost. That one shearing doubles your bloom season. Most gardeners never do this and wonder why their Coreopsis looks tired in August. Plant in full sun in average to lean soil. Rich, heavily fertilized soil makes Coreopsis floppy and short-lived. Poor, dry soil makes it more compact, more flowering, and longer-lived. That is not a compromise, that is matching the plant to its ideal conditions. Plant 4, Showy Stonecrop. This plant grows where almost everything else dies. On rocky slopes, in gravel driveways, in the cracks between patio stones, in places where the soil is so poor and dry you have already given up planting anything there. And then it blooms at the most strategic moment of the season, late fall, when virtually nothing else in your garden is flowering. Sedum spectabile, now correctly classified as Hylotelephium spectabile, is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9. Thick, succulent blue-green leaves on upright stems 18 to 24 inches tall. Massive, flat flower clusters the size of dinner plates, opening pale pink in August and deepening to rich wine red by October. Autumn Joy for classic pink shifting to copper, Matrona for burgundy foliage and pink flowers, Neon for the brightest magenta pink tones. Sedum is a water reservoir on a stem. Those thick, fleshy leaves store moisture inside the cellular structure so efficiently that the plant cycles through a 2-week drought without showing any sign of stress, while surrounding plants are wilting and struggling. In the hottest, driest August, when your neighbors are watering daily to keep their gardens alive, your sedum looks like it was just planted. The pollinators that work sedum in fall are extraordinary. When most other flowers have finished for the season, sedum becomes a critical late nectar station for bees preparing for winter and for monarch butterflies migrating south. It is one of the last reliable pollinator food sources in your garden for the year. This plant saves lives in the literal sense. And here is the part that makes it especially valuable for busy gardeners. Sedum is virtually impossible to kill through neglect. Forget to water it, nothing happens. Never fertilize it, it blooms harder. Ignore it the entire season. It gets more beautiful every year. Leave the seed heads standing all winter. They become sculptural silhouettes the color of copper, holding snow on their flat tops in January and February, adding structure to your garden through the harshest months. Divide established clumps every 4 years in early spring. Every stem you cut and stick in the ground elsewhere roots and becomes a new plant within 6 weeks. Propagation is so simple it borders on absurd. 4 plants in. If this channel is giving you real information you can actually use, subscribe right now. Not at the end of the video, now. Because here is what I know about gardeners who subscribe in the middle of a video. They are the ones who actually come back. They are the ones who implement what they learn. Be that gardener. Plant 5. Common Yarrow. May is the absolutely ideal time to plant yarrow in every growing zone in America. Aculeo millefolium is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 9. This plant grows in gravel. It grows in cracked, dry hardpan. It grows in places where you have already killed 3 other things and walked away in frustration. And then it blooms for 6 straight months without asking you for a single thing in return. Not water, not fertilizer, not attention, nothing. Flat-topped flower clusters in yellow, white, pink, coral, and deep red, depending on the cultivar. Paprika and Strawberry Seduction are 2 standout named varieties with rich, warm tones. The foliage itself is feathery, silvery green, and intensely aromatic, which is precisely why deer and rabbits walk right past it without a second look. The scent puts them off before they ever get close enough to consider tasting it. Yarrow releases natural allopathic compounds into the surrounding soil, chemicals that actively suppress weed seed germination in the area around it. You are getting a built-in biological weed barrier working from the root system itself. No weed fabric underneath it, no extra mulch layer on top of it. Yarrow flowers attract parasitic wasps, lacewings, and hoverflies in significant numbers. Insects that prey on aphids, whiteflies, spider mites, and the common soft-bodied pests that quietly destroy your other plants all season long. While yarrow is blooming in your garden, it is running a biological pest management program that you never scheduled, never paid for, and never have to think about. Rich, heavily amended soil makes yarrow floppy, weak, and disappointing. Poor, dry, rocky, neglected soil makes it bloom harder, stand taller, and spread more aggressively than you expected. Plant it in your worst soil. Give it your most neglected spot. It spreads aggressively through rhizomes underground and self-seeds heavily on top of that expansion. Every division you dig out of an established clump is a complete, viable, blooming plant. At nursery prices, one 3-year-old yarrow clump can yield 8 to 10 free divisions in a single morning. That is real money from a shovel and 30 minutes of your time. Plant 6, garden phlox. There is one plant on this entire list that you will smell before you see it. Not from a few feet away, from across the yard. On a still summer evening, standing near your back door with a glass of something cold, you will catch that fragrance before you even look up and locate where it's coming from. And that moment, that specific, quiet, unexpected moment, is why gardeners have grown this plant continuously for over 100 years. Phlox paniculata is hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8. Large dome-shaped flower clusters, sometimes 6 inches or more across, packed tightly with individual florets in pink, purple, deep red, pure white, and striking bicolors that look almost painted. It blooms mid to late summer, precisely when the spring flush is finished and your garden desperately needs something to step forward and carry it through to fall. Garden phlox fills that gap with more visual impact and more fragrance than almost anything else you could choose. On a still summer evening, that fragrance carries 30 feet from the plant. It fills outdoor seating areas. It comes through open windows into rooms you are not even in. For gardeners who spend their evenings outside, this plant transforms that experience completely and permanently. Here is how you eliminate the one issue that gives garden phlox an undeserved bad reputation: powdery mildew. Choose mildew-resistant cultivars, and this issue largely disappears. David for pure clean white, one of the most mildew-resistant phlox cultivars ever developed. Robert Poor for vibrant purple-pink with exceptional vigor. Gina for soft lavender pink with mildew resistance verified in university performance trials across multiple American growing regions. Beyond cultivar selection, plant with adequate air circulation between plants, water at the base rather than from overhead, and those three decisions together give years of spectacular, fragrant, trouble-free bloom. Cut stems and bring them indoors. Garden phlox in a vase fills an entire room with fragrance for a full week. You are growing a garden showpiece and a florist-quality cut flower in the same plant. 6 plants in, and if you have genuinely learned something in the last few minutes that your garden needed, I want you to do one thing before plant number 7. Subscribe right now. Plant 7, hardy geranium or cranesbill. This is the most underused spreading perennial in American home gardening right now. Experienced gardeners have it in every border they own, and they do not talk about it much because part of them quietly likes that their neighbors don't know what it is. This is not the annual geranium you see in every gas station parking lot, every grocery store garden display, and every big box store entrance every spring. That is a pelargonium, completely different plant. It dies at the first frost and needs replacing every single year. Hardy geranium is a true perennial. It returns, it spreads, it divides into free plants. Geranium X cantabrigiense is hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8. Look specifically for Biocovo, soft white flowers with a delicate pink blush that photographs beautifully, or Carmina for deeper, richer rose pink. Both are proven performers across American growing zones. Both spread reliably and consistently without ever becoming the kind of invasive problem that takes over a bed uninvited. Low mounding foliage that stays attractive all season and then turns rich bronze red in fall as temperatures drop. Flowers emerge in late spring and continue through midsummer. In Zone 6 and warmer, it is semi-evergreen, contributing green ground cover structure through most of winter when everything around it has gone completely dormant and brown. Hardy geranium handles dry shade, the notoriously difficult, stubbornly unforgiving condition under large established trees where surface roots compete aggressively for every available drop of moisture better than almost any other spreading perennial of comparable beauty you can buy in this country. That dark corner under your oak, your maple, your magnolia that has swallowed every plant you have ever tried to grow there, plant Geranium X cantabrigiensis this May and revisit that spot in September. It will not look the same. Shear it back hard after first bloom, one cut. It responds within 2 to 3 weeks with a flush of completely fresh foliage and, in most seasons, a genuine second round of flowers. Beyond that one annual cut, virtually no maintenance required. Plant 8, New England Aster. Every plant on this list earns its place from late spring through summer. This one earns its place in October. When the first cold nights arrive, when everything else is slowing down, browning out, and preparing to go dormant, when most gardens have already surrendered to fall, this plant explodes. And it does it in color so rich and saturated they look almost unreal against the golden and brown landscape surrounding them. Symphyotrichum novae Anglia is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8, one of the most cold-hardy fall-blooming perennials available to American gardeners anywhere in the country. Daisy-like flowers in deep violet purple, rich lavender, bright pink, and pure white with golden yellow centers that glow in the lower autumn light. The color does not look washed out in fall the way so many plants do. It deepens, it saturates. It performs in September and October with the same intensity that summer plants perform in June. That is extraordinarily rare. Asters are among the very last reliable nectar sources available to monarch butterflies before they complete their full migration journey to Mexico. Research from Monarch Watch and multiple university entomology departments documents New England aster as a critical late-season fueling station on the eastern and central monarch flyways. Growing asters in your yard is one of the most direct, most concrete contributions a home gardener can make to monarch butterfly survival. In late June, pinch every stem back by half. In mid-July, pinch back by half again. 2 pinches, that is all. Those two cuts create a plant with dramatically more branching, dramatically more flower stems, and a dense, compact, self-supporting mound that does not need staking. Gardeners who skip this step get a plant that flops open in the center and produces a fraction of the blooms it was capable of. It spreads vigorously through rhizomes and self-seeds reliably. Divide every 3 years in early spring to keep it vigorous, productive, and multiplying into more free plants than you started with. And when a monarch butterfly lands on your asters in October, when you are sitting outside in a jacket because the mornings are cool now, coffee in hand, watching that migration pause in your yard for a moment before continuing south, that is the moment this entire list pays off. Every plant on this list could be purchased in June, in July, some of them later than that. So why does May matter so much? Why is this video called Plant These in May and not Plant These whenever you get around to it? Because of what happens underground before you see anything happening above ground. In May, soil temperatures across most American growing zones sit between 55 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the precise biological window where perennial root systems establish fastest, grow most efficiently, and develop the deep anchoring structure they need to survive their first summer. Plant in that window, and roots have 6 to 8 full weeks to establish before peak summer heat arrives. 6 to 8 weeks of moderate temperatures, consistent moisture, and low-stress establishment that builds resilience into the plant at its most foundational level. Miss that window, plant in July or August, and those same roots are trying to establish in hot, dry, stressed soil conditions while simultaneously supporting a plant that is already trying to grow and bloom above ground. The energy demand splits, the establishment slows, the plant survives, but it does not thrive. Not that first season. And first season establishment determines everything about long-term performance. Every plant planted in May will spread further, bloom more profusely, and establish more permanently than the identical plant put in the ground 6 weeks later. May is not a preference, it is a biological window with a closing date, and that window is open right now. Before you plant a single thing, these 3 rules determine whether everything you do this May succeeds or struggles. Most gardening content skips all 3 of them completely. Rule 1. Fix drainage before you plant anything. Poor drainage kills more spreading perennials than drought, cold, pests, and neglect combined. Before you put a single plant in the ground this May, test your drainage. Dig a hole 1 foot deep, fill it completely with water. If that water has not fully drained within 1 hour, you have a drainage problem that will undermine every plant on this list. Fix it with coarse sand and compost worked deeply into the existing soil, or build a raised bed above the problem area. Do this once, do it right. It permanently changes what your soil can support. Rule 2. Division is free money. Use it. Every plant on this list can be divided. Most of them should be divided every 3 to 4 years to maintain peak performance. Every division is a complete, fully viable, blooming plant that costs you nothing beyond the time it takes to dig and separate it. At current nursery prices, $10 to $20 per perennial depending on variety, one mature, established clump yields $50 to $150 worth of free plants from a single morning with a garden fork and a sharp spade. You should never buy a plant twice that you already have growing in your yard. Rule 3. Leave the seed heads standing. Every autumn, the instinct is to cut everything down, clean it up, make it look tidy. Resist that instinct. The seed heads you cut down are the food source that goldfinches, sparrows, and chickadees depend on through winter. They are the overwintering habitat that beneficial insects need to complete their life cycles and return to your garden next spring. They are the natural reseeding mechanism that multiplies your plants for free while the ground is frozen. Leave them standing. Your garden will be more alive, more ecologically connected, and more naturally abundant for it. You just spent time learning 8 plants that will change what your yard looks and feels like by August, and keep changing it, keep improving it, keep expanding it for years from now, without you having to start over every spring. That is not just a gardening video, that is a plan, a real, specific, actionable plan for a yard that takes care of itself and rewards you more every single season. If this gave you even one plant you are going to put in the ground this May, subscribe right now, because next week we go just as deep, and the week after that. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and before you go, drop one comment below. Tell me which plant from this list you are putting in the ground first this May, and tell me what zone or state you are gardening in. I read every single comment. This is your garden. This is your season. May is open right now.